Hello. So I'm going to tell you a story of the paranormal kind. I think I've told this story on one of our previous channels maybe 15 years ago, maybe, not sure. But it was out of context. Now I can tell you, because now I'm talking about my time in the Special Forces and CARA CURTA, and this happened during my Special Forces time. CARA CURTA was there during this story that night, even though he's not directly involved in this story. Something that just happened that I want to tell you. This happened in 1988 or 89. I think it's 88, but I'm not sure. So what happened? We were our company. In this case, wasn't even our company because the company was divided was in different places. But my team was playing the enemy of an officer's course. What does this mean? There was this officer's course, and they were, learning how to be officers, and they had to have, field experience. So the job of this officer's course was to chase us, find us, and kill us. And our job was to escape them, shoot at them, and kill them. Now there was no killing, there was no real bullets. We had these machine guns called Galil, Israeli machine guns. I think it is Israeli machine guns, standard issue. But there were no bullets. There was this thing on top of the barrel that every time we shot, like we saw a guy from an officer's course, we shot at them, and there was this thing on top of the barrel that sent like a laser beam, but you don't see the laser beam. But it sent like a beam of some sorts. And both the officer's course guys and we, I was a corporal still at the time, not a sergeant, had these vests, which if that laser beam hit us, a red light would pop up in this round thing we had, and means we're dead, we're out of the exercise. So they had that on their machine guns, we had that same thing on machine guns. So we didn't make any noise, we just shoot. We felt a little vibration, which the vibration is like following, if there was a real bullet, the direction of the bullet. And if that beam which caused that vibration hit someone's on the body, you have this little machine, zzz, and come a red light, you're out of the exercise. So that's what was happening at the time. So the exercise was to take, I think, a week. And it's like I told you, it was them chasing us, and we defending ourselves. We could also chase them. There was the guys in charge of the exercise, some majors, officers, who put us against each other, my team against the officers. Sometimes they tell the officers course guys, could be like 10 guys, 20 guys, tells, oh, they're over there. So they would tell the officers course guys where we were, so that they could come after us. They would not tell us. We were always in the dark. We didn't know if they knew our position or not. So we had always to be in defense mode. But they were hunting us. But sometimes, the hunter becomes the hunted. So it was fun. Anyway, it was just for the officer's course to learn tactics and this and that. The whole thing was supposed to last 1 week or so, and we were in this area in the center of Portugal, which at the time, I don't know now, but at the time, a huge area, forest area, belonged to the army. So there was no civilians walking around, there was no hunters. There were some villages here and there, but they knew that if you go into the woods, get shot, because it was a military area. Most of it was pine forest and eucalyptus forest. There were no mountains, but there were hills, tall hills, low hills, but it was hilly, very hilly. Lots of valleys, lots of rivers, lots of creeks. Densely forested, either with pines, pine trees, or eucalyptus. On the third day, at night, we were all resting. This was about midnight. Uh, all we had were tents, but we were not that night. We were not using tents. We were just walking, and when we had to rest against a tree, because we knew we could hear them. The guys from the officers' course. We don't know if they're 10 guys, 20 guys, 30 guys, but not more than 30, because we knew there were no more than 30 guys taking that officers' course. So could be all of them, could be just one team. We could hear them at a distance, and in the forest you can, if there's no noise, you can hear people walking if they're not careful. 1 kilometer away, if there's no wind, no noises, you can hear. And we knew they were coming. So we start walking away from them, through hills and valleys, always staying below the horizon, because it was a full moon. And if you walk above the horizon, top of the hill above the horizon, you can see guys walking. So always below the horizon. That's one of the things that you do. Walk below the horizon so that nobody can see you. Anyway, we were walking and walking. This then became like 2 in the morning, and we had to go, and I was in charge of my team, and we had to go to this position. So we were told by the guys that were running the exercise. I don't know why they told us to go to that position. Maybe because there was another team of the officers' course waiting for us to attack us. We don't know. We didn't know. But we were told, go there. Okay. So we went, taking our, being careful, not to be seen, not to be heard. And we went on and on and on in the dark, but there was a full moon, so we could tell, some shades, shapes, a lot of trails. We could tell a little bit because it was full moon. We went on and on and on, and then we got to this creek, small creek. You could jump over it, and I said, "Let's go. It's this way." I had a map. There was no phones, GPS. In fact, even now, you don't want to use phone GPS because the screen is bright. People can see it. Well, now there's all kinds. You can have a dark screen, but that's not important. At the time, I had a map, and I had to look I had it with night vision to look where we were going. So we crossed this creek, kept on going another 20-30 minutes. We got to a point when I realized I messed up, because I looked at the hills around us, the topography of the terrain, the creek, the hills, to the left, to the right, north, south, east, west. I look at the map, and I was looking around me and didn't match. The topography of the terrain didn't match. Like, there's supposed to be a hill here, and this there, and here's supposed to be low, here's supposed to be high. Like, what? And I was very good with maps. It was one of my good things. I had to, because one of my main job, well, not one of them. Well, it was one of them. It was the most important. My job in the special forces, I was an advanced observer of the mortar company, mortar platoon, mortar 60 millimeters, 120 millimeters, and I was an advanced observer. In real war, what this means is I would go behind enemy lines in the real war, go behind enemy lines, find targets, either find or how they were already identified, then send longitude, latitude to the guys maybe 3, 4, 5 kilometers behind me, in front of enemy lines. I'm behind enemy lines, and send the information to them, and they start shooting the mortars and hit the targets. That was my job. I was an advanced observer for the mortar platoon. So I had to be very good with maps. Very good. So I was a bit confused. This doesn't make any sense. The map does not match the topography. Strange. So I thought, man, I messed up. How is this possible? I am so good in the woods, with topography, with maps. This is what I do. It's my specialty. I'm so good. How am I lost? This is impossible. But I accepted that maybe I did get lost, and we were going the wrong direction. So I told my guys, my team, like, hey, we have to turn around, and because I need to find where we are, because this doesn't make any sense. So I decided to go back to the last place that was recognizable, which was the creek that we jumped. Okay, once I find the creek is here on the map. I know where we are, and we can turn left, turn right, make sense of this mess. Of course, I cannot. If I was already lost, I think I couldn't match the topography of the terrain with what I was reading on the map. Well, it didn't make any sense to keep going left, right, front. I had to go back, so I decided, let's go back to the creek, because I need to study this better. So we went back to the creek. We jumped the creek, and I looked again at the map, and the topography didn't make sense again. Meaning, there was the creek in front of us, or behind us to the side, was right there. Look at the map, here's the creek. This is where we were. This is where we are. But, other than the creek, the topography didn't make sense. It was a big... I was very confused. The guys were not confused, they were waiting for my orders. They were just following me. They were just looking at me like, hey, what's going on? Shut up. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to figure it out. And I decided, okay, let's go back 1 more kilometer to see if I can match the topography with the map. Right now, I see that the creek is right there by our feet. It was on the map, but still the topography didn't make sense. What's going on here? They said, let's go back 1 more kilometer so that I see a hill or something that matches the map. Nothing made sense, but okay. So let's go. So we start walking. It was very foggy, a very foggy night. It was raining. There was thunder. It was very foggy, a very foggy night. It was raining. There was thunder from a distance, but it was raining where we were. Full moon, at least that. We weren't completely blind. We didn't had to use any kind of light or even night vision, even though we all had them. But there was enough. The full moon was enough for us to see. And we went up a hill and down a hill, up a hill and down a hill. Not too big. I think at the third hill went down into this valley, and suddenly, forget about the topography, forget about matching the map with the topography. Everything was different. We were walking. There were 7 or 8 of us, and suddenly the landscape changed to our right. The landscape. Like I told you, this is an area of a forest area where there's only pine trees or eucalyptus. That's it. There's nothing else. Maybe an olive tree here and there, but it was just pine tree forest or an eucalyptus forest. Suddenly we were like in another place. Another place. To our right. To our left was still pine trees, but to our right, suddenly it felt like we were in Louisiana, America, the bayou. There was these oak trees with that Spanish moss, literally. There was these oak trees with that Spanish moss, literally. And there was foggy again, all foggy. And there was these trees that do not exist in Portugal. These oak trees with a Spanish moss, typical of the Louisiana swamp and bayou. We're like, what the hell is? We're just following the same road, not road, the same path as before. But suddenly we were in Louisiana or someplace like that. Like, what is it? This kind of trees don't even exist in Portugal with this Spanish moss. Very strange. So we were looking at each other. Nobody was speaking because we knew we were being chased by the officers' course. Nobody was speaking. Silence. But we're looking at each other. Like, what's going on here? At this time, they realized maybe I didn't get lost. Maybe we were all lost in time and space. Anyway, looking at each other, nobody spoke, but there was the tension there. What's going on here? We're not in Portugal, we're somewhere else. We kept walking for another 100, 200 meters. It's like 400 feet or something. And suddenly, what did we see? To our right, an old, typical old southern Louisiana plantation mansion with the columns. Typical. An old, typical old southern Louisiana plantation mansion with the columns. Typical Louisiana southern plantation in the midst, the fog, with the oak trees. Or the midst, the fog, with the oak trees or cypress trees with Spanish moss, and there it was, a mansion, like typical plantation mansion from southern US, Louisiana, whatever. And we're looking at each other like, psh. Nobody said a word, but everybody was looking like and doing gestures like, what's this? Where are we? This was not here before. Just a different place. Now I found, of course, we didn't have cameras with cell phones or any other kind of cameras. And so I tried to find a photo on Google that better matched what we saw. And it took me a long time. I had to put a lot of different words, and I couldn't find anything for a long time. But I finally found one that matches, I'd say 90% of what we saw in Portugal that night. Here's the photo I found. That's exactly what we saw. Did not belong there, was never there before, but that's what we saw. So I found this photo. It shows pretty good how it looked. I also found a video. After a couple of hours, I found the video. These guys are taking videos of old plantation mansions, which I believe that's what I saw. I believe I saw this house on this video.
All those oaks are in a line. They used to have a carriage road right through here to the middle of the porch. Spanish moss.
And you may say, Dante, you are Azazel 8867-100. What's the story about this video? Shouldn't you know about all these things? No, this is not how it works. The four brothers, and I've told you this for many years, the existence of the four brothers on earth is to serve and exist as a human amongst humans. So the four brothers and many other caristos that work and serve as humans is to learn. And when you are born, you don't know everything. You have to learn. Some things are given to you for free. Others you have to learn, you have to experience. That's part of the progress. So don't make assumptions. There are four brothers and many others serving, almost at the same level as the four brothers. And nobody, caristos or not caristos, are born knowing everything. It's part of a process. If there's no process, there's no knowledge. There comes a time amongst the four brothers and others that they get to a point that they know so much that they don't need to know more. They have known enough. But that's just for some of you, some of us serving the cause. You want to serve the cause? Get ready to learn, but it will take a while for you to know everything. And by everything, I mean 1%. Here.